So today we have with us Mr. Gautam Munjal. Gautam's entrepreneurial journey started with a backpacking trip across Central and Western Europe in 2016, which led to the inception of the design and community-led hotel concept, Postel. So despite being a lawyer by qualification and having 3 years of experience with OYO, Gautam was driven by his passion for this hospitality industry. He established Postel in 2017 in South Delhi's most creative neighborhood, which is the Hoskas village. Today, Postel is said to be India's most creative hotel company in the mid-market to luxury segment. Uh, Gautam's Postel properties stand out with a design-led aesthetic, social vibe, gourmet cafes, rooftop micro banqueting space, and authentic local tour experiences. So as of 2022, Postel is expanding its footprints across India with properties in Delhi, Varanasi, Manali, and upcoming developments in Goa, Naldehra, and South Delhi. Today, Gautam will be sharing his thoughts on the topic, which is the role of design and community in shaping the hospitality industry. So let's extend a warm welcome to Mr. Gautam Munjal. We are delighted to have you here with us.
Likewise, Vasan, likewise, very, very excited.
So over to
Been a
you
very,
now.
it's been a very busy. Am I audible,
Yeah,
everybody?
you are. You are.
Okay, super. I'm saying it's been a very busy week, but I was just like, I'm gonna come out in my best possible form to be able to deliver, in half an hour, talking about the whole journey and talking about something like design and community, which I can for 24 hours, 48 hours as well. It's a
Yeah.
bit tough, concising it within like 30 minutes talk, but I'll still try my best for sure. Um, Thank you guys for inviting me, and I hope I would like to, I hope people take back, enough information about my journey and what we plan to do with Postel as well, and how, talking about hospitality and community and design, blending all together, for sure. So, firstly, I'd like to go through the presentation. I will give a run through the presentation, and if there are any questions, we can, of course, discuss that later as well, right? So that's where we are. I think the whole inception of the idea of doing Postel was a very personal project. I call myself the accidental hotelier, because it's just something that came about. I come from a background of family of lawyers, having done law myself as well. But it's just something that, I had it in me that I wanted to create a space which has got the right aesthetic and, can make people connect with one another. That was the simplest of ideas that was there. And I just went with the flow, and, here we are today, 7 properties live, another 5 under development. So by the end of this financial year, we're looking at 12 hotels live. Uh, Majorly, as in a sense, the idea is about reimagining hospitality for millennials, Gen Z, and beyond. I think uh, I'm a big believer that, it's a lot about uh, debunking the idea of what a traditional hotel chain does. So we're much more than just 4 walls of a hotel room, and, as is. And through the presentation, I'll give you more idea about how we create that sense of community and design in our spaces. Just to run through some of our spaces, we've got Leiden apartments in Manali. We've got the warehouse in Manali as well. This was our first property in Delhi. It's called Postel, which Swapnil said, yes, gave the right idea that this is in Hoskas village. Our second property that just got launched just before COVID came in. This was in February 2020. Went through a tough time. We can talk about that as well. Varanasi just when COVID sort of settled down. And then our recent start of another space in Naldehra, which is about 45 minutes from Shimla. And the whole idea was to create a farm stay sort of concept, very aesthetically, solid, and something that gets, a lot of groups and families and creates the right sort of community atmosphere as well. So, what is a design and community-led hotel? I think it's very important of defining our space, where we are, who we are, how we bring people together. I think that becomes really important as well. Um, as part of our journey, I mean, something that I defined from day one was that no two properties will be alike. It's very important to have a character of each space that we occupy. and every property that we create and we partner, and hotel investors and property owners that we partner with, that we would want to create a different element wherever we go to create that sense of surprise to our guests as well, where people will look forward to the spaces that we occupy. Our biggest inspiration in the hospitality space right now today, my biggest inspiration is basically in India. There are two brands. One is social, of course, the way every social is different from one another, and it has that sense of community, that sense of surprise, that sense of epiphany, an element of surprise to the guest. That every space will have its own character. Number two is WeWork. WeWork is I've been following the journey of WeWork since the last probably 7, 8 years globally, and then how they came in India. WeWork brings people together, and how they're able to standardize yet create a different format wherever they go. So that's the thing. Make a statement with each property. Bring people together, enable dialogue in a thought-provoking space. People want to stay in places, in hotels, in homestays, in hostels where they relate to, and they can talk about it as well. I think today's consumer is definitely different from what it was in the last 10 years, 20 years, 30 years as well. So the real experience is outside the rooms in itself, and I think that's what we focus in Postel as a brand with every new property that we create as well. As how can we, um, create common areas that have an energy, that have, and it's got to do with everything, the arts, the music, what sort of events that we host and everything as well. So, our front office staff, we don't call them front office staff, we call them social hosts because they are the ones hosting the properties, they are the one hosting the guests as well, and they are the nerve centers of the place, right? They are the vibe creators, as I call them. Um, in terms of business, we are multidimensional. I mean, we're not just about selling rooms for a night or for a week or for a month. We're also about micro banqueting. We've hosted birthday parties to events to corporate retreats to product launches at our space as well. So it's a lot about redefining, reimagining what a hotel could be, should be for the current times. We do host workshops. We give out our spaces for podcasts, shoots as well, community dinners as well. Lifestyle brand, I think lifestyle is a lot about in terms of hotels. It's about blurring the lines between what a hotel, co-working space, F&B, production, local retail, bringing all of it together. And definitely with a touch of technology, social sharing, events, and Instagram ability, which is of course important as well. Um, as a hotel chain, our idea is to be young in our thought, and we definitely, appeal to audience across all ages. We get families to come and stay with us. We get, groups of school students that come and stay with us as well. So it's about appealing to all sorts of ages. I think another very important thing is about making bold business moves that you know defines us as Postel. For example, in the picture here, you can see this is a two-bedroom penthouse apartment in one of our properties in Delhi. This just to give you an idea on the price points, this goes at about 10,000 to 20,000 a night, depending on the season, depending on the time of the year. Gets a lot of families, couples, groups to come and stay as well. And in the same building, we also have Japanese capsules, which are basically ideal for a business traveler, a solo traveler, a backpacker, somebody traveling on a budget. So this goes at about 2,000 rupees a night. So imagine a space which has people who are paying 2,000 and a space which has people paying 20,000 in the same space, right? And this is what we are. Our essence, our idea, our overall thought process is centered around this, wherein we try to create a community aspect to people, whatever you may be paying, whatever be your price brand, or price pocket, whatever be your background that you come from. When you're traveling and staying at hostel, it's a lot about creating a sense of equal footing for everybody, and that's where the challenge is for us as well to create value for these different consumer segments, but at the same time bringing them together under one space. How do we create community? I think it's simply it's about the fun, the social, the uninhabited vibe element. I think that's somewhere I come back to the point that when you go in a Marriott, or when you go in a Shangri-La, when you go to a Novotel, how open are you to talk to somebody who's sitting on the table in the cafe or the restaurant, right? But that's the idea which we want to sort of create. Like, in at Postel, it's very easy for you to make a conversation with somebody sitting on the next table. So how we create community aspect is through a lot of these things which I mentioned here: barbecue nights, vinyl mixers, social dinners, pub crawls, art workshops, book reading events, poetry sessions, sound healing, flea market, house concerts. We've done all of this and we keep doing this on a regular basis as well to create dialogue between people, because that's what sort of distinguishes us. Guys, not having a response is a bit difficult. Swapnil, are you still here with me or am I having a monologue?
I'm here with you. We are listening to the
Super,
presentation and then we'll
super.
move on to the conversation.
Sure, sure, sure. So, if you want me to take it slow and probably give talk a little more about all this, I can as well. But looking at the span of time that I had, I thought I will just give a quick run through.
All right.
Coming back,
So,
yeah, yeah. Coming back, I think the whole idea of community is for us is through all these mixers, and also understanding that not every guest that comes in to our space wants that sense of sociability and everything. But again, at the same time, we create a sense of atmosphere wherein to each their own, but at the same time, we're through our training to our staff, front end staff as well. The whole idea is to create atmosphere where it's easy to have a dialogue amongst guests and create community elements. Moving on, I think coming to the point of thoughts and inspiration, and I'm a hotelier that has come through a minimal theoretical understanding of how hotels are run, but a lot about observation of my travels and looking around and understanding pop culture. So I feel that designing a room, a capsule, a suite isn't just about designing the space, but it's about imagining how the world is shaping up to be. And it's about pop culture trends as well. How so like in our next property in Goa, we're coming up with a podcast studio. We through our research we saw that Goa is becoming the next digital nomad hub, which it is as well post COVID. So we're coming up with a space where creative people in the creative industry could hire that space for a podcast. That's what we're doing. We're also in the same space. We're doing an event space as well. So it's about the idea of creating a property which is much beyond than just rooms. That's the idea. Uh, Something that I stumbled upon yesterday in terms of pop culture trends is since Barbie is trending everywhere. There's Hilton in one of the properties in South Korea, I think. A lot of Hiltons actually globally right now are theming one of their hotel rooms as a Barbie theme room. So it's something that I wanted to share. But this is how you catch on to not just a place which is four walls, but it's about catching on to consumer trends, catching on to pop culture conversations, catching on to what people are following, what are they talking about, and putting it across in your hotel property. That's the whole overall essence. Moving on, talking about my inspiration and what led me to do create Postel was, I think, it was a tipping point for me. This building, if you look at it, looks like any other factory, very maximalist, very rundown and all that. But this was actually a chemical factory based in Amsterdam that was turned into a hostel. And I was traveling with six of my friends on a boys' trip in 2016, and that's where I came out with the idea that I want to do something like this because I could see people who are 60-year-olds and who are 16-year-olds as well in the same space, and there was a pool table, there was a 5,000 square feet of a common area, there was a yoga room, there was a social kitchen where people could cook themselves. This was 800 beds, 800 beds, capacity, and it was sold out, and that's what I mean. That was one of my major inspirations, and I'll talk about the places that that I've stayed at and that have really inspired me to create and to bend the thought of what a hotel could be. Clink, of course, is one such place. Um, Looks like a sort of a cathedral, but I stumbled upon this place in Belgium, in the place called 1898. Is the name of the hotel. It's basically a post office turned into a hotel, and fantastic experience, of course. Something very historical, but at the same time, it's the whole idea that how can you turn a post office into a hotel. That was really inspirational. Um, Another place in Phuket in Thailand, it's called Labdi, and they have a boxing ring, so you can take boxing sessions. You can learn boxing if you're staying there as well. You can take a kickboxing class and stuff like that. So it's like, would traditional hotel chains think of stuff like this? Definitely not. And that's where my thought of it is as well. It's about how crazy, wacky the ideas are, and it works, right? Another place that I've been to is called Cuckoo Cabane in France, which is basically 50 tree houses over 20 acres of, and it has a golf course inside as well. So that's been really inspirational, to go to these places, stay there, and understand how real estate can interact with human interaction, and how all of this comes together. This is a place which gets people who are looking for a nature retreat. This is a place which is more social, of course. This was a city hotel, and has that historical center vibe. Clink was an out and out social property as well, which was massive. Of course, 800 people staying together, big on social as well. Um, Defining the next 5 years for hospitality in the lifestyle segment, I think commodity hotel brands will definitely disappear and become irrelevant with time. I feel that the properties that and hotel chains that bring a flavor, even if it's in the budget travel, are the ones that will survive and thrive in the coming time. Human interaction, as much as you talk about AI, artificial intelligence, technology in hotels, digital, digital footprint. I feel hospitality is about humanity. It's about human interaction, and that's where the key is definitely. Earthy and sustainable material and design is going to be the future, and it right now is as well. Um, Hotels will become more than just a place to stay, but also to exchange a dialogue. Definitely, customers are going from functional approach to experiential approach. Even if you are coming to Delhi or going to Bombay for just a day, you would want to experience something where you can meet new people, you can interact with new people, have a sense of community or have a sense of dialogue. Because what luxury is and what luxury was is a major difference. I think today's luxury for the millennial and Gen Z mindset is a lot about culture, community, interaction, and the people that you meet. So yeah, I mean, I think next 5 years, social sharing, of course, how Instagrammable your places are, is definitely going to be part of the future. Ending it, I would just, very simply, I don't believe in big lectures, but I feel that one business tip through my experience I would give is define brand personality. I think that's very important. Whatever be your business, you could be in tech, in hardware, in clothing, in real estate, in hotels, in restaurants. Defining a brand personality becomes really important. Of if I was Postel, who would I be as a human being? How would I wake up? What would I do through the day? So I think that sort of brand personality definition becomes really important for any business that is trying to achieve, that is trying to thrive in the lifestyle segment for sure. Entrepreneurship tip, I think I had a conversation with Swapnil the other day as well, in one entrepreneurship tip that I will always have and always strive by and talk to everybody is that there is no plan B. When you're in it, you are all in. It's like poker. You're just completely all in with all your cards on the deck, and there is no looking back. That's where real success lies. There is no plan B. In today's, I think, information age, and in today's time where the job market is changing every day, and there are so many opportunities for everybody. Young, like a young 22, 23-year old, there's so much to do. I feel that if somebody is trying to enter into creating their own venture and starting and doing a startup, I think it's a lot about all in for sure. So that's about it. I could sum up my whole experience in 19, 20 minutes. I think I'm open for questions, guys. Now, thank you.
We have covered quite a lot of areas which were a part of the question, like which were most of the questions as well. But to lead the conversation, the first thing I want to understand from you is how has the pandemic actually impact the hospitality industry and particularly boutique hotels like Postel, and what changes have you made to adopt to the new normal?
Right. Firstly, I think it was a big eye opener for sure. I mean, we were still very early into the business. We were just two properties. live, and the second one had just gone live 1 month before 17th March. 17th March 2020 was the date, right? Um, uh, the big realization was for me to sit with my team, and over those months when we were struggling for occupancy, we had some standard travelers for sure, but it was a tough time for overall for hospitality. So the first thing that I did was go back to my team and ask them, guys, what business are we really in? Are we just a place that accommodates and gives is a hotel for tourists, or can we go beyond and just redefine ourselves into what business are we really in? So one of the major takebacks during those times was that we opened up a new avenue for business for us, which was shoots. So we reached out to a lot of production houses, we reached out to event companies, we reached out to because people were not going to bars, people were not hanging out in cafes, were not going to restaurants. They wanted a safe environment where they could be with people that they trust and that they know and everything. So we did a lot of innovation around our own spaces. We started selling floors instead of just rooms. So like 10 people could come and stay and take a floor, and that floor will be just them. We started reaching out to production houses, and we've been very successful with getting a lot of brands to do shoots at our spaces. Um, and that's why we are not just a hotel. That's what I say, that there's so much more in terms of getting brands to do shoots as well. And that's the network of production houses that we are associated with. So yeah, I mean, overall, COVID was a big eye opener in terms of what business are we really in and how we can redefine ourselves, and just being quick in terms of thought process, in terms of flexibility with our spaces, with not just depending on one chain of revenue, which was tourists coming and going, but also about staycations, workation. Um, can we give our rooms, for uh, companies that want to get 10 of their staff employees together, and in because offices were shut. So things like that, that's where there's a lot of innovation day to day. There's a new strategy every week, 2 weeks. How do we sort of recover from what we've been through and still be able to thrive? And I think we fairly definitely opened up new avenues. So COVID was um, it was an experience business wise, was an eye opener for sure. It led to a lot of positivity.
So, before being before being an entrepreneur, you were a lawyer. So, how was that transition like for you from, being a lawyer to becoming a hospitality entrepreneur, both in terms of transition, in terms of skills, and in terms of the smoothness of that transition? How was it for you?
Nothing is smooth ever. I think entrepreneurs, if you're looking for smoothness in life, definitely entrepreneurship, any sort of business venture is not it's not going to be there. It's not going to work out well. I think that you've got to have a thick skin, whatever transition or whatever career choices you make, or especially doing your own venture. How easy or difficult was it for me? I've been blessed with, I think, family that was very, very supportive of us through the process. I think sometimes in life, especially at an early stage, it becomes important to understand what you don't want to do also rather than what you want to do. Sometimes getting to what you want to do and what's your calling in life and what drives you, and what career path or what venture you want to choose and what business you want to get into. It's tough. It's not easy, of course. Start with why, of course, it becomes important. But before all that, understanding what is not your calling is also very important. And that's what, while I was pursuing my law and while I finished my law as well and everything, I understood that this is something that I will do, but this is not something that I see myself growing in, or I feel that I had that creative side of me, which wherein and real estate is something and hospitality is something that I was always interested in, and that naturally just came about. And I'm in great support of family to be able to get through that transition was there. So yeah, I mean, for me it was very important to understand what not to do also. You know? Yeah.
So, most of our audience are college students. So, a very basic question: if someone is venturing into the hospitality industry, according to you, what will be the three most foremost skills that someone require to excel in the hospitality industry?
Um, I think number one definitely is people skills without a doubt. And there is a right definition to people skills. And I'm not saying that if you're an introvert person, you can't get into hospitality. Of course, you can as well. I feel, but it's not about uh, people skills wherein you know how to get work done. I think that becomes really important, and that's not something which you can define from day one. I mean, I've learned and unlearned a lot of things with time, right? So I feel that people skills is number one for sure, and that's something that you develop with time. For somebody getting into hospitality, other than secondly, other than people skills, I think it's a lot about the right research becomes really important to understand if you're starting a hotel, a restaurant, a hostel, a cloud kitchen, even anything related to hospitality industry as well. What becomes really important is the gap that you're trying to fill becomes really really important, or the experience to the end consumer that you want to give. How is it different from what is there existing in the market? So I feel number one is people skills. Number two is innovation, wherein what are you really trying to get into? That becomes really important. And number three, I feel is sometimes I think learning and unlearning is an everyday process. It becomes really important. So the ability to question your own self becomes really important. And I think that's where people skills come in, where I think a lot of our ideas of, you know, for example, uh, doing shoots at Postel and, giving out our spaces for workshops, art events and all this, it has come through from the base level staff that is on ground working and, giving inputs and ideas. So I feel that it's a lot about, define your business as it goes. Go with the flow. I think that would be the same. So people skills, innovation, and learning and unlearning, I think becomes really really important.
So in the presentation, we saw how the kinds of examples, the properties that actually influenced you, the kind of properties where you actually learned the importance of design and community. During the development of Postel, what was the idea in your head? Like, what was the starting point, the elements, the inspirations in your head from where you will start working on the design of Postel?
Um, it was literally about research. I think I looked at what the best 3 to 4 hostel brands were doing globally. Um, there's something called generator. There's links that I spoke about as well, and it was a lot of research into how I call it borrowing brilliance, design inspiration, of course. We looked at how they design their beds, how minimal their spaces are, what is the sort of social interaction that is created in these spaces, how do they get people together and, spend less time in the rooms and more in the common areas. For example, one of the calls that we took initially was that we will not do room service. Room food will not be served in the room. Post-COVID, we had to start that, of course. People were not wanting to sit out in the common areas. But again, in the future properties, we might not do it as well. So the whole idea is not about research and looking into the design inspiration of different places and how they make their spaces aesthetically pleasing and minimal, low cost, low capex, but at the same time, how do they get people to exchange dialogue? That becomes really important as well. So yeah, it was a lot about looking at different brands globally.
Over time, sustainable practices are gaining importance in various industries, including hospitality. So, what do you think? How can we embrace eco-friendly practices in the hospitality sector, and how is Postal working in the same?
Sorry guys, I'm taking this call from a cafe. But anyway, so very good question. I think that it's something that will definitely keep developing with time, and there is no perfection in terms of how sustainable can we be. It starts from as simple as the banning usage of plastic in our properties. That becomes one of the core elements. Sorry guys, just give me a minute. So I think sustainable practices is something that starts as simple as looking at as much biodegradable stuff in terms of hotel amenities and utilities that can be used. That is um, like a very strict non-usage of plastic becomes really important as well. What we're doing in Aldera, for example, in one of our new properties, is we're growing as much possible inside, within the property. And also another thing that becomes really important is how, for example, in this property, we're doing water harvesting. Um, that becomes really important as well because the area gets a lot of rainfall and we have a water collection system, we do water harvesting as well, and we're able to sort of create this circular ecosystem in the space in itself as well. Um, I think in terms of eco practices, there is so much in terms of practices that we try to inculcate in our overall guest experience as well. For example, this is something as a chain that we haven't done yet, but we want to do and we will do at some point is, how turn down services at hotels and how, minimal, laundry system in a way wherein, the guests can, of course, get their linen, cleaned up whenever they want. But again, we would ideally want it to be every 3 to 4 days instead of every day. That's something that's there. And glass bottles, small stuff, it becomes really important. And I think number one challenge, of course, is completely taking away plastic from our properties. That's for sure. And then in the future, I think it's also about how we're building our hotels. We are not a builder; we're now a hotel operator at the end of the day. But again, we would want to get into properties which are built on sustainable approach. A lot of prefab structures that are not your brick and mortar, you know, uh, concrete structures per se, but a lot of prefabricated construction is something that we are looking into as well for the future.
That sounds good. And we'll open the public chat for the audience to ask questions. I'll just quickly do that. So people can post in their questions in the public chat. It has been enabled now, and we'll be taking one last question from Gautam from my end, which is, can you share any personal story or a pivotal moment in your journey as a hospitality entrepreneur that has inspired you and can serve as a source of motivation for young professionals looking to make an impact in the industry?
I think there's so much. I mean, there is so much more in terms of. I feel that um, it completely depends on what business that you're really in. For me, it's a lot about getting out of the comfort zone. I think it's very easy to sit and to scale, but in an industry like hospitality, what becomes really important is to go out and observe and take in experiences. Our country is the we're at this leap, taking a leap stage right now. We're taking a leap in terms of everything. Um, I mentioned in my presentation how today's consumer is focused more on experience than function. Functionally, again, like nothing against brands, Marriott, etc. Of course, they have their own business set, but I feel that a lot of the investment goes when you're trying to invest into a hotel or create a hotel room. There's so much money wasted in elements that are not really used, right? So I feel that it's a lot about if I have to share a moment and share something from my experience, it's a lot about observing. I spoke about properties that I've been to that have been really pivotal, that challenge my own thought process. Maybe also, that's where I come when I think of being open to observing around and gaining knowledge in your own industry. And I feel that again something that I also tell young entrepreneurs able to venture on their own as well. That there's so much in this world, but you don't need to know everything. You don't need to know everything, and it's okay if you're not aware about crypto as much in depth. If you're not aware about AI as much in depth. If you're aware about your space and your industry, uh, there is AI hospitality as well. But try to focus on what you're trying to create because that's what is important as well. And try to do it as in depth. There's some more questions coming in.
So let's start with Chetna's question, which is, how does Postel integrate the local culture and community into the guest experience, and why is it important?
I think it's pivotal, right? At the end of the day. So, for example, our city hotels are different from leisure hotels. So, talking about local culture and community, what becomes really important is of course, employing local staff. That is very pivotal and key. Number two is showcasing the local landscape becomes really important as well. For example, in this property in Naldera, what we're doing is that so this is a first all-inclusive property. So you pay an X price, and your all meals are included. and we are literally located in an area which is in 5 kilometers. There is a population of not more than 100 people. So we are in a really off-grid location. It's very motorable, but you're in the mountains, you're at a retreat, you're by yourself, and it's a lot about disconnection from city life. So how do we incorporate local culture? Is we take our guests for a local village walk that is complimentary on the house. And for this, we've employed local family that engages with the guests as well, shows them their house, their village, and it's about a 30 minutes of a hike, and it's a beautiful experience. So I think that is one showcasing local, areas becomes really important. At the same time, incorporating local people in our space also becomes really, really important. Another important aspect to um, the local community and how we involve them is one thing that we've done in Delhi from day one is promote local businesses, small scale local businesses, and how we can have them do pop up, showcase their products at our properties, use their products as well. That becomes really, really important also. So, yeah, I mean, supporting local economy, that is one, and employing local people, that is another one. And I think the third thing would be, um, local landscapes and, doing local tours becomes really, really important as well.
So, Gaurav asks, what are the challenges you faced while setting up Postel and how did you overcome them?
Everything was a challenge. I think getting the right staff was a challenge as well. But the experience was such that the first property I was so like we were a four-member team at that time. We just hired one housekeeper, we hired one chef. I was there myself. There was a front office person. One more person was there. So I mean, we did everything by ourselves. Like we did housekeeping with the front office. I remember the first day that we opened, we got our first guest. The booking came in. It was a Canadian solo traveler. He was traveling, and then great experience. It was a 3 day stay, and in terms of challenges, there were plenty. When you start a business, of course, there's a lot of compliance challenges that are there. There is of course the challenge of getting the right team together. There is the challenge of getting the customers, of course, as well. So I think it's a lot about navigating through all these challenges, but at the same time, if I talk about compliance wise, getting the right team together, marketing the space as well. And thankfully, we've been very lucky at some points that some of the properties have done really well because organically we got featured in some magazines or some PR articles, and at the same time we've been able to host a lot of very cool events that gave a headway into getting customers at our spaces. So yeah, that's what it is.
So, finally, Riddhi asks, could you provide some tips to budding entrepreneurs looking to venture into the hospitality industry? And I think
Many,
this
many.
question, and I think this question will be relevant in terms of uh, the entrepreneurial side of it, in terms of getting funding for in the hospitality industry. How convenient is it? Do you think there are prospects for the hospitality industry being considered in the startup environment and actually being able to raise funds and get funding? Because uh, VCs, they always prefer product based startups over service based startups. So, what are your
Yeah, I
thoughts on
think
this?
very cool question. I think so. This is something that where we are. We are a hostel right now is a completely bootstrapped business. We whatever funds that have been taken as well have been taken from the unorganized sector through debt and through friends and family and everything. So we are definitely looking at raising around this financial year itself. But you're right, the more product oriented approach that I've been to VC offices as well, where people are like, get technology in, get technology into the system, then your business becomes more investable. But I'm like, I, I am a big believer that hospitality is about humanity, and I will not just do it for the sake of it because I want to raise money from you. So no. So I feel that product defined and a big part of scalability is about standardization, which I believe is important to be able to scale the business further and to create the right SOPs. But I'm a big believer that I want to create spaces that don't look alike and have that differential element. So I think in today's time, investment sometimes get dry, sometimes it's it's very hot market in terms of investment market. It's hot. Tech will always be preferred, of course, but at the same time, I feel you need to take a call. Are you making a business for investors? Are you making a business for the consumers, right? And when I say if you're making a business for the consumers, there's enough out there to be able to squeeze and to get to create the right profit margins as well. So it's a very personal call, I would say. I in nowhere do I say that Postel, even from day one, was we're a hotel brand, we're a hospitality company, and that's how we want to grow. We want to be asset light. We don't want to invest into the properties ourselves, but we want to be able to create design formats and get investment from the property owners, right? So when we go to a property, we have a certain pitch of how the design specifications we want from that property. Design team is ours, the property investment is on the owners, and we come in as operators, right? So coming back to the point of investment, I would say that there are definitely a lot of channels through which investments can be raised in terms of projects, hospitality projects. Um, uh, I feel that the best way possible to start is to go into the unorganized angel investment market and see how it goes. Because when you look at the VC market, they will look at a scale, they will look at how copy paste your formula is, right? Um, for example, at Postel right now, we are exploring family offices for an investment, which look for long-term gains, which really understand the concept as well. Because we are not a product that, is tech-oriented and can scale through technology. It's a lot about human factor, right? So at the same time, I think my tip to budding entrepreneurs in hospitality would be look at look at the gaps in the market. I feel that in terms of somebody wanting to start something in hotels, uh, A, join us for sure. B, I think it's a lot about doing something, looking at consumer sentiment. Right now, I feel that a lot of the traditional hill stations are becoming crowded. We've seen what is happening in Himachal. We've seen what happens in Uttarakhand during rains and everything. Of course, the forces of nature nobody can stop. But at the same time, I would say that right now with Instagram becoming so important in our daily lives, I feel any place can become a destination. We could be in the middle of nowhere. Give the right vibe, if you give the right community aspect, if you give the right experience to the guests, anything and everything can become a destination in itself. So my tip would be that trust your instinct, create your own, carve your own niche, man. I mean, there is nobody stopping that. We've somewhat been able to do that with our own concept as well. A lot of people were like, "What is Postel?" from day one. But I'm an entrepreneur that feels that if I'm able to create curiosity, half the battle is won. I might not be. See, a lot of people don't understand what Postel is, but I feel that creates a sense of curiosity wherein we are a hotel, we are a hostel, we are a service apartment, we are a capsule concept. It's all of course together, and that's where the beauty of the concept is as well. It's for everybody. It's not about, and you will not see affordability or budget in any of the keywords in our marketing. We are an economy to mid-scale brand for sure, and that's where how we are expanding further. So my one major tip will be create your own niche. That's what they do.
Thank you so much for the amazing session. I don't see any further questions coming in, so I think it's a good place to actually, you know, pause the conversation
Sure,
and maybe
sure,
put it, just take it up someday again. But for now,
absolutely.
thank you so much for being a part of it.